bought online from the Philippines were tested for mercury content as part of the project run by the Zero Mercury Working Group, or ZMWG, of which Bantoxics is a member. And at the end of 2020, the Minamata Convention on Mercury required each party to ban the manufacture, import, or export of cosmetics containing over 1 part per million of mercury by taking appropriate measures. This was supported by DENR's passing of the Department Administrative Order 2019-20, which sought to ban mercury in the Philippines by the end of 2020. Several skin lightening products were bought from online shopping centers like Shopee, Lazada, eBay, Amazon, and Facebook, or were found to contain more than the maximum allowable amount of mercury. Mercury is known to local, state, federal, and international agencies as toxic and a risk to human health. People who use mercury-based skin creams have higher mercury exposures than others in general population. And products used can expose other people living in the households. With that said, may we call on the Executive Director of Bantoxics, Reynaldo San Juan Jr., for his opening remarks.
Thank you very much, Arlene. Good day, everyone. Good morning, Elena, and good afternoon. Bantoxics would like to take this opportunity to welcome and thank everyone who's here with us today, to our panelists, guests, and participants. We humbly welcome everyone to Bantoxics webinar on dangerous mercury-laden skin lightening products readily available for online purchase. I would like to personally express my gratitude to Elena of the Zero Mercury Working Group and the European Environmental Bureau for guiding us during the preparation of this event. And of course, the research conducted on mercury-added products. Bantoxics greatly appreciates your guidance for our fight for a mercury-free society. Thank you, Elena. I would also like to thank Ms. Cheryl Lynn Tan from the Food and Drug Administration for accommodating our request to be a panelist for today's webinar. Bantoxics is also grateful for FDA's initiative to protect Filipino consumers from the adverse effects of mercury-added cosmetics. I'm also grateful to JAM, our policy and research associate, for tirelessly working on projects to protect Filipinos from toxic chemicals and waste. We are also thankful to Dr. Lawrence Bello for agreeing to share his expertise and talk about the adverse effects of mercury on human health. We are truly grateful for your never-ending support for the fight for a toxic-free society. Last but certainly not the least, my deepest gratitude to the Chief of the Hazardous Waste Management Section of the Environmental Management Bureau, DNR, Sir Jerry Geronimo Sañez. He is our advisor, an expert on the field yet remains humble. A person has a positive attitude and a positive role model to us all. A person that is passionate in his work and compassionate to others. I would like to personally thank him not only for gracing this webinar, but also for being a good friend, a person that knows how to listen and understand and guide others to succeed. Bantoxics is really lucky to have Sir Jerry's support and believe in our organization. Bossing, maraming salamat. Bantoxics was founded in 2006 to respond to waste issues plaguing the Philippines. Over the years, we have worked on issues related to toxic chemicals and wastes. Together with allied environmental groups, we raised the alarm on the rising volume of e-waste shipments from the other developed countries to the Philippines, which were improperly disposed of in our landfills. Of course, with the guidance of EMB and Sir Jerry. Bantoxics has worked for years with communities academic institutions, and government units to address mercury and mercury pollution. Our pioneering work focused mostly on the sound management of mercury through successful policy and community engagements. In 2019, as mentioned by Arlene, Skin-Lightening products bought online from the Philippines were tested for their mercury content as part of a project run by the Zero Mercury Working Group and EEB, of which Bantoxis is a member of. CMWG tested 158 skin lightening creams from 12 sampling countries, 95 of which exceeded the allowable limit 1 part per million, with mercury levels ranging from 40 parts per million to over 130 parts per million. The organization released a list of mercury-added skin lightening creams to warn consumers about the product brands. Despite this research, in August 2021, this year, showed that mercury-laden skin creams are still widely available for purchase in Lazada and Shopee and other online platforms. Several skin lightening products were bought from online shopping centers such as Shopee, Lazada, and Facebook Marketplace, and were found to contain more than the allowable amount of mercury for cosmetic products. At the end of 2020, the Minamata Convention on Mercury required each party to ban the manufacture, import, or export of cosmetics containing over 1 part per million mercury by taking appropriate measures. This was supported by DNR's passing of Department Administrative Order 2019-20, which sought to ban mercury and mercury-added products by the end of 2022. This webinar aims to inform the audience about the prevalence of these harmful mercury-added beauty creams that are available for purchase in online markets. Bantoxis hopes that the government agencies involved in its implementation and the Philippine e-commerce sites will take a stronger stance against the sale of these mercury-added products. Thank you everyone and welcome to Bantoxis webinar on dangerous mercury-laden skin lightening products readily available for online purchase. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Sir Ray. Let me now introduce our panelists for our today's webinar. We have Ms. Elena Limberiti Setimo, Project Manager of the Zero Mercury campaign of the Environmental European Bureau. Elena will share ZMWG's campaign and research on the dangerous mercury-added skin lightening creams. We also have Jashaf Shamir Lorenzo, Bantoxic's very own policy and research associate. Jam will be sharing the prevalence of mercury-added beauty creams in Philippine online marketplaces. We also have with us Sherry Lynn Tan, a Food Drug Regulation Officer from the Food and Drug Administration of the Philippines. Cheryl will be sharing FDA's regulations regarding mercury-added cosmetic products. Last but certainly not the least, we have with us Dr. Lawrence Bello, a professor at the esteemed De La Salle University of Manila. Dr. Lawrence will be sharing the adverse effect of mercury to human health. Each panelist will be given 20 minutes to present, followed by a 10-minute question and answer session afterwards to address any clarifications the audience may have. To start, may we now welcome Ms. Elena Limberiti Setimo from the Zero Mercury Working Group and EEB for her presentation. Elena is the project manager of the Zero Mercury campaign of the Environmental European Bureau. Elena has worked hand in hand with Bantoxis to help transition the Philippines out of mercury use. Elena will share ZMWG's campaign and research on the dangerous mercury-added skin lightening creams.
Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me well?
Yes, Elena.
Thank you. So good morning. As Arlene and Ray said, my name is Elena Limberiti Setimo. I'm working for the European Environmental Bureau and for the Zero Mercury Working Group. I would like to thank Ban Toxics and also the government of the Philippines for all the support until now. And this has been really a great work together. It's been for a really long time that we're working towards phasing out mercury-added products in the Philippines and elsewhere. And among this work, one part is the Skin-Lightening Cream campaign, where Ban Toxics is playing really a crucial role, as they are also the testing hub for our campaign in Asia. Let me start by presenting shortly who we are. So the European Environmental Bureau is the Europe's largest network. We have over 170 NGOs in more than 36 European countries, representing around 30 million members and supporters. The vision is for a better future where people and nature thrive together. The European Environmental Bureau, together with the Mercury Policy Project, a US NGO, we formed in 2005 the Zero Mercury Working Group, which is now an international network for more than 110 NGOs from over 55 countries. The aim is to reduce, eliminate mercury supply and use and emissions, and also the exposure, and implementing the Minamata Convention via a two-pronged strategy. From one side, we've been promoting strategies nationally and globally, and at the other side, we are also supporting projects in developing countries, like also the ones that we've been working on with Ban Toxics in the last few years. So as an introduction, as it was already mentioned, as we all know, mercury is a neurotoxicant, which represents a serious risk to human health and the environment. Is one of the 10 chemicals of major public health concern, which has been listed by WHO. And also, as you know, mercury is used in mercury is added in skin creams to suppress the melanin production. Not in all of them, of course, but in some, as we will be presenting soon. And regular use of skin creams can lead to rashes, skin discoloration, and blotching. We will hear also a few more things about the health effects, I think, later on today. Long-term exposure to mercury in general can cause serious health, can have serious health consequences, including damage to the skin, eyes, lungs, kidneys, as well as the digestive, immune, and nervous systems. To combat this, many national governments have banned or set a 1 ppm mercury content restriction limit in their legislation. And also, as it was already mentioned, the Minamata Convention, which has been in place since 2017, bans the manufacture and trade of such products. Nevertheless, toxic trade of often illegal mercury-added skin-lightening products is still a global crisis. And it's only expected to worsen as there is a big demand in Asia, Middle East, and Africa. A little bit of background and overview of my presentation. So as we've seen, mercury has long been used in cosmetics and is a hazard to users, their families, and their environment. When we started the campaign, the Zero Mercury campaign on skin lightening creams started in 2017 and 18, where we analyzed 338 skin lighteners from 22 countries. And we found high levels of mercury from 93 to 16,000 ppm. In 2019, and I will be presenting this shortly after, we expanded the testing to products previously and currently identified by governments as over this legal limit of 1 ppm. The results, as you will see, show that many high mercury products are available locally, but they are also widespread by internet marketers, and this is really a big issue. To combat this, third-party liability measures are necessary, and as a result, of course, enforcement of all existing measures and new will be absolutely necessary. So to go into our 2019 sampling round, I think as Ray mentioned shortly, we purchased 158 samples from 12 countries around the world. 95 were found to violate the 1 ppm mercury limit, so around 60%. And the mercury levels were found from 40 ppm up to over 130,000 ppm. You can see how big the difference is from the 1 ppm limit that we're supposed to have. The methods used were with the XRF to test and screen the products, but also with the atomic absorption spectroscopy. Some of the products were also tested in labs. And the testing confirms the same high mercury brands are available on several sampling occasions in different years. Also, when we compare the results to the earlier 2017, 2018 sampling round. So the countries who participated in this 2019 sampling round, as you can see, they are from Africa, Asia, EU, and the USA. And then you can actually see that, and you can see the NGOs who assisted us in this campaign, and we're really grateful to them. This is the power of the network. And as you can see, in all these regions, even when there are strong regulations in place, unfortunately, these high-level mercury creams, they slip through borders and they reach consumers. Here, I mean, I'm not expecting that you read all that, but this is just to give you an indication of the names and brands of creams that we have found in the last round. Some are really very well known, and all of these. And here you can see the level of mercury that has been found. And as I mentioned before, same brands appear in different countries and in different years. And this is what we call like the repeat offender. So we just keep finding the same problem, which unfortunately continues. Here are a few more. And in addition to the previously identified high mercury brands, in 2019, we found another 20 high mercury creams, which had high mercury on top of what was identified in 2017 and 2018. Based on the information from the packaging, most of these high mercury products were were manufactured in Asia, especially in Pakistan, which was the 62%, in Thailand 19%, and China 13%. This table lists also the names of the internet marketers, as well as the range of mercury detected in the products. And again, these were the findings at the time, and this is continuous. I mean, these products continue being available. Apart from the well-known Amazon and eBay platforms, we have come across all these other regional platforms which are used widely. Daraz and Lazada in Asia, as well as Zumia and Bidorbuy in Africa. After the publication of our results last time in 2019, luckily many internet platforms, some major internet platforms, took down their toxic lightening skin products. Here you can also see there was a petition that was handed in by our colleagues in the US to Amazon, a petition of signed by 23,000 people to Amazon to pull down the high skin lighteners. So this was a very good success. Nevertheless, as we can see, other products appear soon. And then platforms show little interest in taking effective preventive action to stop new illegal products from being sold. So the trade via online platforms is really complicated and it really persists. As a result, from our experience so far, our recommendation and our observation is that online platform liability reform should be a cornerstone of a strategy to prevent illegal and unsafe product sales. So this is something that all countries will need to pursue. Illegal and unsafe online product sales, as we can see, is a wider problem. So it's not only about skin lighteners, it goes much, much beyond. The online platform, they could be seen as publisher or a retailer. And many years ago, as you've seen, laws were enacted decades ago to promote this internet commerce. And the internet platforms were treated like a newspaper, where they were just posting whatever was to be sold, and they were exempted from any liability for illegal or unsafe products that were being put up for sale. But internet platforms today are not really like newspapers, because they profit from each product sale. They control the content of the website and also the terms of the sale, and often represent foreign sellers which have no physical or financial presence in the countries. They often also distribute the products directly. Therefore, such a control of the online platforms is really necessary. Luckily, it appears that change is coming. So there have been recent court cases in the US where they have imposed liability on Amazon for selling defective products. Also, the EU is considering and currently under discussions on their legal framework and revisions, including the liability. And to that end, the EB, also together with other NGOs, we have co-signed a letter requesting for these third-party liability measures to really be taken. Also at the world level, global level, WTO, the World Trade Organization, is also now negotiating the digital commerce rules. So this would be a question also for the Philippines. Would you be looking for that? Would you be willing to make such change? Because we think this would be really necessary given the results that we keep finding creams on the market. So this is a question for the audience and for our colleagues from the government. So beyond the third-party liability measures that are needed for the online sales, enforcement measures, of course, are necessary to complement the controls and also deal with the on-the-ground sales. And to that end, to assist with this work, in 2019, the Zero Mercury also published a companion report on the enforcement measures to complement these axes of the liability reform. So this report, you can see on the right, is also available from our website. It lists several elements of enforcement measures which could assist the governments to improve the existing situation, with many examples which can already be found in many countries in the developed, but also in the developing world. So if I go shortly within those chapters of elements, the one part could be elements that would be necessary is, of course, legal frameworks, regulations, the legislation. So follow-up of the legal gap analysis that most of the countries have been doing under the Minamata initial assessments. Also putting in place authorizations, restrictions, or bans. And also enforcing labeling of ingredients for better transparency. Other measures include developing detention lists or alert systems. We have some good examples on the EU Safety Gate Rapid Alert System, which is in place in the EU. So as you know, the EU has now 27 member countries. So when one country identifies a product which does not comply with relevant regulations in the EU, they will alert the rest of the countries, and these products will most likely be removed from from the different markets. A similar system also exists in Asia. So we have the ASEAN, under the ASEAN Cosmetics Directive, we have the post-marketing alert system, which I understand will be further discussed later on. And also the advisories, which also, from what I understand, the Philippine government is also issuing on the basis of the post-marketing alert system through ISEAN, in view of notifying consumers so that they can avoid these products, which can be really dangerous for their health. Another important element for the enforcement is the interagency and international collaboration. So this is really important, especially when we are short of resources within the regions. So it is important to set mandates to have national interagency cooperation, so within the country, as far as possible, so that all relevant parties are aware, and all relevant agencies like customs, police, and the relevant ministries. Also all the frontier the border inspectors, but also regional cooperation is really necessary, as we have sometimes illegal products passing on the ground from one country to the other. So some examples which appear to be quite successful is the cooperation in the East African community, this between Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda, but also the ASEAN system, which will be discussed later on, and also the EU. Also important, of course, for all customs officers and inspectors is to have also the good screening tools to carry out the work. So supporting this work and this providing more resources to the relevant agents, that will be really important for the work. And then, of course, informing consumers for better market surveillance would also be key. Also, I mean, given that the resources are not enormous, the civil society organizations could also assist the relevant agents for this better market surveillance. In terms of also these penalties and sanctions, but also the screening tools, I would also advise there are some presentations under the strike project, which could be very relevant, as it also talks about enforcement and how governments could be assisted in terms of mercury and other waste. So to conclude, the Skin-Lightening products is what we call the artisanal small-scale gold mining of the products area. And what I mean by that is that it's very difficult to control. As you know, there are many informal participants. There is decentralized illegal activity. There is insufficient awareness of health risks. And this requires, of course, attention on both supply and demand side. High mercury creams available from internet platforms and are available from internet platforms and also in shops on the ground. The online platform liability reform would be necessary, especially for the online sales. And then, of course, overall enforcement, with also taking examples from our report, would be a serious challenge, and we could use these elements to assist and improve the enforcement in the countries. As a result, we would anticipate a post-2020 compliance issues with greater attention to new legal frameworks, capacity building, and international cooperation, especially viewing the online sales. And at the end of the day, country analysis to identify the best way forward would be necessary. So this is going to be quite a long journey. But we are here to assist in any way possible. And I'm going to close here. Thank you very much again for your attention, and looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you for that insightful presentation, Elena. We will now open the floor for anyone who wishes to ask questions for Elena about her presentation. You may send your questions directly to the host of this event, Bantalk6Coms, through the Zoom chat box. our first question, are we able to legally run after the companies producing mercury-added cosmetic products? Were there any legal measures taken against these companies to stop them from producing these harmful products in question?
So, I mean, in terms of the companies, this is actually, this is also the ultimate source of evil, I would say. So, of course, the companies need to stop using mercury in the manufacturing of the products. And this is also what the Minamata Convention says. So all parties, they need to comply to that. Now, identifying the companies, it's quite complicated. I mean, so this is something that I would, I mean, we are trying to do our best to identify these sources, but then, of course, country measures would be necessary to go after these companies where it has been shown that repeatedly that mercury is added in the product. So these manufacturers are clearly illegal if they continue to add mercury, and therefore this is exactly the what we've been identifying, that measures need to be taken against them. But this is not something, unfortunately, that NGOs can do, but we can assist in trying to identify those with the assistance of the government agents.
Thank you, Elena. Another question from Jasmine Romero of ABS-CBN News. I'd like to ask if ZMWG gotten in touch with online companies here in the Philippines selling dangerous skin whitening products. If so, can you tell us what you have talked about? If not, are there moves to talk to them? In terms of online liability, what are your recommendations?
Yeah, thank you for this question. So I think this will also be covered in the next presentations. It was Bantoxics actually who has been contacting these platforms like Lazada and Shopee and others. And some of them have reacted. I think Lazada, if I remember well, after we published the results last time, they took down the products that had been identified. So also not only in the Philippines, but also in the other countries, we had a positive reaction to, for example, Amazon and eBay, UK and US. They also took down their products. And also in Africa, Zumia also contacted us directly, but also took down the products after the publication of the report. So there have been some reactions which are positive. Then also there have been reactions from some platforms which are, you can see clearly that they don't accept the liability. For example, Amazon India, although they were sent a letter by our colleagues, they basically said that they are not responsible. So this shows exactly what I was just talking about, so that this online liability, the third-party liability measures will really be necessary. So the recommendation is that measures are taken at national level. So I mean, I don't know, I'm not familiar with the exact Philippine legislation that would be relevant to this. But for example, in the EU, we have what is called the Digital Services Act. So this Digital Services Act is currently under revision, and it's through this act that we are addressing the third-party liability. So this is something that would really need to be pursued at national level, and then eventually at global level. As you see, also the WTO is going the same direction. So this is really like a reform, a legal reform that will need to be taken at the national level in the different countries, as if you want, is as an intermediate level to tackle the issue. As just to link with the previous question, we have, of course, the manufacturers, and this is the source of where the mercury is coming from. So this is one layer which needs to be tackled. But then the next, if you want, higher level will be this third-party liability. Then the other enforcement elements that I've been talking about, the laws, also the customs, the control, all of these things will need to be happening. But to complement, it will be more effective is if this third-party liability actually takes place, and then the rest of the elements that we have in place and the good cooperation that Philippines has with the region also kicks in for better to better protect the consumers.
Thank you. Do we still have questions from the audience? We still have another 5 minutes. Thank you from ABS-CBN.
Thank you.
If there are no more questions, maybe we can move on to our next panelist. If you have more questions, feel free to send us an email at comms@bantalk6.org and we will send it over to the panelists. Let us now move on to the next panelist. We have Jashap Shamir Lorenzo, Bantalk6's very own policy and research associate. Jam has been with Bantalk6 since 2016. He studied BS Community Development in UP Diliman and is currently taking his master's studies in urban and regional planning. Jam will be sharing the prevalence of mercury-added beauty creams in Philippine online marketplaces. May we now call on Jam of Bantalk6.
Yes, good afternoon. So I'm just trying to figure out how to share my screen. Wait. Share screen. Wait lang guys. I need to set a few preferences first. Yep. Sorry guys, naputo lang internet. Hello?
Yes, Jam.
Hindi daw ako makashare ng screen while other participant is sharing. So, okay. Okay, finally. So, can everyone see my presentation?
Yes, Jam.
So, good afternoon, everyone. I am Jam Lorenzo from Bantalk6 Policy Development and Research Unit. So, I will be discussing mostly Bantalk6 efforts regarding mercury-containing cosmetic products in the Philippines. And along the way, I will be discussing a few points na highlight din from the presentation of Elena and the presentations, upcoming presentations from our next presenter. So think of my presentation as something that would contextualize everything that will be discussed this afternoon. So Bantalk6, first and foremost, we are an independent, non-government, non-profit environmental organization that works for the advancement of environmental justice, health, and sustainable development in the area of chemicals and wastes with a special focus on women, children, and other marginalized sectors. So For everyone who is asking kung ano nga ba yung impacts of mercury and why is it chemical of concern, first and foremost, mercury and mercury compounds are highly toxic substances that are categorized as persistent and bioaccumulative toxins. By bioaccumulative, it means na it accumulates in the body. So yung mercury that was inside your body siguro 20 years ago is most probably still inside you right now. That's what bioaccumulative means. And mercury is known to have adverse impacts to environmental and human health, and it can potentially impact the nervous, digestive, and immune system. So these impacts will be discussed in detail sa presentation later ni Dr. Lawrence. So mercury in cosmetic products. Sabi ng World Health Organization in 2019 is mercury salts inhibit the formation of melanin, resulting in a lighter skin tone. So mostly ginagamit siya sa whitening products because it inhibits the formation of melanin nga, which is a pigment that leads to darker skin. So mercury can act as a bleaching agent, and it also holds a certain preservative properties, which means it can help elongate products' shelf life. And sabi ni cosmetic chemist Ginger King, mercury is an effective material for skin lightening, with rapid results, but the price outweighs the benefits. So a few studies that we've reviewed that show the potential health impacts of using mercury cosmetics include one, the accumulation of mercury in kidneys through regular topical application, which may lead to nephrotic syndrome, which is a disease sa kidneys. And it can also lead to skin defects such as rashes, discoloration, and scarring, as well as loss of resistance to bacterial and fungal infections. Mercury toxicity, pagka super high levels na, can also lead to miscarriage, spontaneous abortion, stillbirth, and low birth weight. And maraming neurological disturbances associated with mercury. So potential environmental impacts then, no? So mercury in soaps, creams, and other cosmetic products is eventually discharged into wastewater. So if we're using soaps and creams and we wash them off, eventually umaabot siya sa wastewater. Then the mercury enters the environment where it becomes methylated and can enter the food chain as highly toxic methyl mercury in fish. So as we discussed earlier, mercury is bioaccumulative. So it means pag nangyari itong cycle na ito at umabot siya sa fish at kinain siya ng fish and kinain yung fish na yon ng other bigger fish, mag-accumulate yung mercury na yon dun sa fish na yon. And when humans, when we eat the fish, malilipat sa atin yung mercury. So that's just one example of why mercury in soaps, creams, and other cosmetic products, even in the form of wastewater, is highly toxic to us and the environment. And sabi rito, even if we realize that mercury products are toxic and gusto na natin silang itapon, mercury-containing cosmetic products that are left unused and disposed are also sources of mercury emissions and releases. No? So there are a lot of ways that mercury in cosmetic products can impact our health and the environment. In fact, sa Global Mercury Assessment of 2018, waste from products is considered one of the biggest sources of mercury pollution in the world. So waste from products is considered one of the major sources of mercury emissions and releases under siya ng cement production. So waste from products includes other mercury-containing products then. So in the Philippines and in the whole world actually, mercury in cosmetics is considered a serious issue that is faced by authorities across all levels. At the global level, we have the Minamata Convention on Mercury. At the regional level, we have the ASEAN Cosmetics Directive. At the national level, we have the revised CCO for mercury as well as various FDA regulations, which will all be discussed in the latter presentations. And even at the local government level, merong QC ordinance in Quezon City is an example. QC Ordinance 2676, which was enacted in, I think, 2012, na seeks to address the issues in relation to Mercury Cosmetics. So despite all of these policies in place that want to control mercury in cosmetics, the issue still persists. So we are now looking at, banned toxics and mercury-laden cosmetics. Ano naman ba yung efforts on our end to support these policies to address mercury-containing cosmetics? So the organization has conducted various policy development and research work in relation to the management of mercury-containing cosmetic products. On our website, you can find our policy paper on the ESM of mercury and mercury compounds, which was published in 2014. And meron kaming ipapublish later this month, yung Mainstreaming Children's Rights in Environmental Law, which discusses in part yung issue of cosmetics. So, and we have also worked with agencies such as the EEB and the Zero Mercury Working Group, which was presented to us by Elena in the earlier presentation. And Bantox 6 is in constant communication with relevant government agencies such as the FDA, and for other mercury-containing products na hindi cosmetics, we also contact other agencies such as the EMB. So pag may nakikita kaming products na we have tested ay mercury-containing, we alert these agencies. So an update on the cosmetics work nga on Bantox 6. This was from of Bantox 6. This was discussed partly kanina ni Elena sa kanyang presentation. In our 2019 round of reporting, we purchased products from sources such as Lazada. And results ranged from 47.98 ppm to 131,566.67. And kung babalikan natin yung presentation kanina ni Elena, it was discussed na yung actual limit of mercury for these products should be just 1 ppm. So 131,000 is a lot compared to the limit. And this could lead to serious environmental and health impacts. So a few of the products that we have found that we purchased from Lazada include Anisa Gold Beauty Cream, Erna Whitening Cream, JJJ Magical Spot Removing Cream, and RDL Cream, all of which are way above the prescribed limits for mercury content in cosmetics. So through the efforts of regulating agencies such as the FDA, products are removed from Shopee and Lazada when detected. So when we released the report in 2019, and we tried contacting FDA and some other shops such as Lazada and Shopee, like what Elena said earlier, these products were removed immediately. And since then, since 2019, we continue to conduct testing and market monitoring of these products. So every month, what we do is we have a list of products that we know contain mercury, and every month we check kung meron sila sa Shopee and Lazada. So some of which are available for short periods of time before they are removed. In some instances, products are removed, then 3 months later, nandun na naman. So may kailangan tayong i-report, then after the reporting, mare-remove din sila. So it's a cycle. It's a continuing cycle. And sabi rito ay key issues remain such in unregulated platforms such as FB Marketplace and eBay. I think the biggest challenge that we have right now is yung unregulated platforms nga such as FB Marketplace, since hindi naman sila talaga trader platform but more like buy and sell one-on-one platforms that are harder to regulate than Shopee and Lazada. So immediate steps for Bantox 6 that we see right now. Number one is we need to contribute towards addressing illegal importation through improved regulation mechanisms. As discussed earlier, we have had a lot of success in regulating Shopee and Lazada through the efforts of government agencies such as the FDA. Pero key issues din still remain, such as yung mga less regulated marketplaces such as FB and eBay. Doon nakikita namin na talagang malaki yung presence ng mga mercury-containing cosmetics, and not just cosmetics but other mercury-containing products. And number two that we need to focus on is to decrease the demand by raising consumer awareness and promotion of safer alternatives. So marami pa rin kasi, especially in countries such as the Philippines, that na culturally gusto kasi natin na paputiin lagi yung mga skin natin. So we need to raise the awareness of consumers regarding these mercury-containing cosmetics. So that ends our short presentation for today, and thank you for listening.
Thank you for sharing your presentation, Jam. It's quite alarming to see how mercury-added creams are still widely available to be purchased in Lazada and Shopee. We are now opening the floor to everyone who has questions about Jam's presentation. Please send a direct message to the host or to the panelists. First question, Jam. Aside from cosmetic products, do Bantoxics have programs addressing mercury in other products?
Yes. First and foremost, our project with the EEB not only focuses on cosmetic products. We have ongoing projects such as we are currently conducting a study on alternatives for other mercury-added products such as batteries and lamps and mercury-containing medical measuring devices. And aside from our work with the EEB, we've also been working with other non-government agencies and government agencies as well, such as the EMB, the DENR EMB. One of our most recent projects was a Japan ASEAN integrated funding project on mercury-containing medical measuring devices. So what we did was we formulated a national inventory of all of these devices, and we also developed technical regulations that we could use to tighten our control of these products. So Bantoxics has a comprehensive program not only on mercury-added products but mercury-related issues as well, since our whole organizational program is in support of the guidelines set in the Minamata Convention on Mercury. So marami kaming projects in relation to mercury.
From ABS-CBN, what are your next moves to cut the vicious cycle of reporting, removing, putting it back? Has the Congress been tapped to create tougher policies?
Yeah, okay. So if we look at the policies, which will be discussed nga later by the FDA, the government is looking to impose a total ban on these or mercury-containing products by 2022. This is outlined in our revised CCO on mercury and mercury compounds. On our end, as Bantoxics, this webinar actually is part of our ongoing program to contribute to the education of consumers regarding these products. So, and aside from it, we are also conducting a lot of studies in relation to cosmetics. Itong new round of testing that we are doing with the EEB, we will be publishing them early next year, yung results of that. So, those are our efforts right now regarding cosmetics and mercury products. Yeah.
From our Facebook viewer, how can we reach unregulated marketplaces to remove mercury-containing products?
Ngayon yan yung mahirap actually, since katulad ng FB Marketplace, these are just individuals selling items. Hindi naman sila registered stores in the first place, and it would be unfair if we try to impose these kinds of registrations na i-require natin na mag-register ka before you can even sell on FB Marketplace. Kasi FB Marketplace is basically parang ikaw nagbenta ka lang sa kapitbahay mo ng gamit na ginamit mo eh. Yun yung setup niya. So right now, Bantoxics is actually we are reviewing kung ano ba yung mga best practices that are employed not only in the Philippines but abroad, so we can come up with a synthesized siguro na recommendation that we can submit in the future to regulating agencies.
Another question from ABS-CBN. What are the tips you can give to consumers who like to buy skin whitening products?
For consumers who like to buy skin whitening products, first and foremost, we need to review yung content ng product, and we need to ensure na merong first and foremost FDA certified yung products. Kasi a lot of these products na may mercury containing, hindi naman siya approved ng FDA, and FDA regularly parang announces kung ano yung mga products that they see in the market that should not be bought by consumers.
Yes, Elena, do you have something to say?
Thank you. Yes, for this is just to indeed, as Jam said, I mean, as a start, you could be looking at the reports that we have been publishing, also at the Philippine level, but also at the global level, so that one can see the names of creams that have either been found to contain mercury from our analysis, or that highly suspicious to contain mercury. And also what I can say is that we are actually we are preparing a bigger database, and we are going to publish this again earlier next year. So the idea is that we have like a big platform where consumers can also go and check if the products that they find on the shop has been identified, at least in some countries, or from our analysis. As I mentioned in my presentation, there are detention lists. So detention lists are actually lists of products which have been identified by governments to contain mercury, and they are actually banned by the country. So if one goes to a shop and finds this product, they should then purchase it. And also similar, as John was saying, I mean, the advisories that are being published by the FDA, this is a very useful source. So this should be made available as widely as possible, even in the actual shops where these are being sold. So, and of course, the shopkeepers, they need to be aware of that, so that if these creams are found, then they will also be liable, because they will be allowing these products which are illegal to be sold. So there are several layers, but for the consumers, of course, being aware of the name at least, this could be one level. Of course, we have seen that sometimes manufacturers may either change the names or change by a letter, or they can make small changes just to go around any potential sort of blacklisting. Thank you.
Thank you, Elena. So our time for Q&A session is up. If you have more questions, feel free to send us an email at comms@bantoxics.org, and we will send it over to the panelists. Thank you. Before moving on to the next panelist, please make sure to answer the attendance form. It is now in our chat box. Certificates of attendance will be sent after the webinar. Let us now move on to the next panelist. We also have with us Cheryl Lynn Tan. Cheryl has a Bachelor of Science in Pharmacy from the University of Santo Tomas. She has recently completed her Master of Science in Environmental Toxicology at Chulabron Graduate Institute in Thailand. She has been with the Food and Drug Administration since 2012 and currently works as Food Drug Regulation Officer at the Licensing and Registration Division at the Center for Cosmetics and Household Urban Hazardous Substances Regulation and Research. Cheryl will be sharing FDA's regulation regarding mercury-added cosmetic products. Please welcome Ms. Cheryl Lynn Tan from FDA.
So hi, good afternoon. So let me just share my screen. Can everyone see my screen? Okay,
Yes.
thank you. So good afternoon, everyone. So first of all, I want to thank Ban Toxic for inviting the Food and Drug Administration to this webinar to share our current regulation on cosmetic products. So I am Sherilyn Tan from the Licensing and Registration Division of the Food and Drug Administration Center for Cosmetics and Household Urban Hazardous Substances Regulation and Research. And today I'll be giving a short presentation on the Food and Drug Administration's current regulation on cosmetic products, particularly those containing mercury and mercury compounds. So in this presentation, we'll briefly discuss the background of the Food and Drug Administration. Then we'll go to its current regulation on cosmetic products and more specifically on mercury in cosmetic products. Then we'll discuss briefly the post-marketing surveillance system of the FDA that allows the agency to monitor the cosmetic products in the market. And then lastly, I'll share some advice for the consumers when purchasing and using cosmetic products. So the Food and Drug Administration was created when Republic Act 9711 or the Food and Drug Administration Act of 2009 was signed. Its mandate is to ensure the safety, efficacy, and quality of health products in the market to protect the public health and safety. When FDA was created, it has 4 centers by virtue of Republic Act 9711. So we have the Center for Drug Regulation and Research regulating pharmaceutical drugs as well as biologicals and vaccines. Then we have the Center for Food Regulation and Research regulating processed food as well as food supplements. Then we have the Center for Device Regulation, Radiation Health and Research regulating medical devices as well as radiation emitting devices. And then lastly, we have the Center for Cosmetics and Household Urban Hazardous Substances Regulation and Research, or CCHUHSRR, which regulates cosmetic products as well as household urban hazardous substances products. So what are the cosmetic products regulated by the Food and Drug Administration, or FDA? So according to the definition found in Republic Act 9711, a cosmetic product is any substance or preparation intended to be placed in contact with the various external parts of the human body or with the teeth and the mucous membrane of the oral cavity for the main purpose of cleaning, perfuming, changing appearances, correcting body odors, and protecting and keeping the body in good condition. By this definition, we can see that the term cosmetic products covers a whole range of products that we use day in and day out. So these include shampoos, soaps, makeups, makeup removers, nail polishes, hair dyes, as well as skin lightening products, including lotions and creams. To regulate these cosmetic products, FDA utilizes this regulatory framework. So FDA issues out license to operate to cosmetic establishments, including manufacturers, traders, importers, wholesalers, as well as exporters. Bear in mind that FDA does not have jurisdiction over retailers, including online retailers. These licensed cosmetic establishment then notifies their cosmetic products with FDA to secure a certificate of product notification before placing a cosmetic product in the market. The issuance of license to operate and certificate of product notification by FDA to cosmetic establishments is not the end. FDA continuously monitors the market for cosmetic products that are in violation of existing laws, rules, and regulations through a system called post-marketing surveillance system. In 2005, the Food and Drug Administration, which was then called the Bureau of Food and Drug, adopted and implemented the ASEAN Harmonized Cosmetic Regulatory Scheme and its common technical documents. Through this adoption and implementation, FDA was able to require all cosmetic products to be compliant with the ASEAN Cosmetic Directive and the ASEAN Common Technical Documents. So there are different ASEAN Common Technical Documents available, and there are two documents that mention mercury and mercury compounds. So these are the ASEAN Cosmetic Directive Annex 2, which contains a list of banned ingredients in cosmetic products. And the second one is the ASEAN Guidelines on Limits of Contaminants for Cosmetics. So before 2019, though mercury and mercury compounds are listed in ACD Annex 2 as banned ingredients in cosmetic products, thiomersal and phenylmercuric salts, which are both organic mercury compounds, are also listed in Annex 6, which contains a list of preservatives allowed to be part of a cosmetic product. So according to ACD Annex 6, thiomersal and phenylmercuric salts can be used as preservatives in eye makeup and eye makeup removers up to a concentration of 0.007% mercury. However, because of the Minamata Convention, in November 2019, these entries of thiomersal and phenylmercuric salts in ACD Annex 6 has been deleted, which leads to the total ban of mercury and mercury compounds in cosmetic products. So what does being in ACD Annex 2 mean for mercury and mercury compounds? Since ACD Annex 2 contains a list of substances which must not form part of the composition of cosmetic products, the inclusion of mercury and mercury compounds in ACD Annex 2 means that that mercury and mercury compounds are not allowed to be intentionally or deliberately added into a cosmetic formulation or cosmetic product. This means that any and all mercury-added cosmetic products in the market are in direct violation of current laws, rules, and regulations. However, as we know, mercury is a naturally occurring metal and is widely distributed in the environment. Thus, it is possible that mercury can also be found in the raw materials used in the production of cosmetic products. Because of this, the ASEAN Cosmetic Directive has set a maximum tolerable limit for mercury contamination in cosmetic products, which is 1 parts per million or 1 ppm. This prescribed limit of mercury contamination in cosmetic product means that any and all cosmetic product found in the market to contain mercury in excess of 1 ppm are in direct violation of current rules and regulations. So as I have previously mentioned, FDA conducts a post-marketing surveillance system that continuously monitors the market for for the compliance of cosmetic products to existing laws, rules, and regulations. So in general, this is how FDA monitors the market for cosmetic products potentially contaminated with mercury and mercury compounds. So the FDA Inspectorate collects samples as a result of a complaint or report received by FDA or as part of their routine collection. The collected samples of cosmetic products are sent to the Center for Cosmetics and Household Urban Hazardous Substances Regulation and Research for verification of product notification status and to the FDA laboratory for analysis of mercury content. If a cosmetic product has been verified to be sold or distributed in the market without the appropriate marketing authorization from FDA, or has been confirmed through laboratory tests to contain mercury in excess of 1 ppm, a public health warning or an FDA advisory is issued by FDA to immediately inform the public of the potential risk of using the cosmetic product. So as Ms. Elena of VMWG has already mentioned before, the ASEAN member states has established a post-marketing alert system wherein the ASEAN member states share data on violative cosmetic products. So if FDA received a PMAS alert from other ASEAN member states, it also issues out FDA advisory to inform the public of the list of violative cosmetic products. The FDA advisory issued also authorizes and orders the Inspectorate and the Regulatory Enforcement Units of FDA to ensure that no violative cosmetic products are made available in their areas of jurisdiction. This is in coordination with other law enforcement agencies as well as local government units. In cases where the violative cosmetic products has been purchased online, FDA also coordinates with the online platforms to immediately take down the page of the seller. Though FDA is fully committed to protecting public health by regulating cosmetic products, the agency also appreciates that regulation sometimes is not enough. That's why FDA advocates for consumer education and consumer awareness. FDA advises all consumers to be vigilant when buying cosmetic products and to always check the product notification status of a cosmetic product they intend to buy using the FDA verification portal, which is available in the FDA website or may be accessible through this link shown in this slide. Consumers are also advised to read the product label as a whole. Consumers may check the ingredient list for ingredients that they may be allergic to or ingredients that are harmful that they want to avoid. And then consumers are advised to read the special precautions for any special warnings that they need to be aware of when using a cosmetic product. Consumers are also advised to always consult a physician in case of adverse events and to report any suspicious or unnotified cosmetic products to FDA. Reports to FDA can be sent through email to ereport@fda.gov.ph. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your presentation, Ms. Cheryl. It's good to know that FDA has regulations set in place to protect Filipino consumers from mercury-added cosmetics. We are now opening the floor to everyone who has questions about Cheryl's presentation. Please send a direct message to the host or to the panelists. For our first question, aside from cosmetic products, what are the other mercury-added products regulated by the FDA?
Is the question about like other mercury-containing products?
Yes.
Okay, so I am not the best person to ask this because there are different centers with under FDA, but I think amalgams also has mercury, but that is under the Center for Device Regulation.
Okay, thank you. Another question from ABS-CBN. How do we determine mercury in the list of ingredients when manufacturers can muddle the information by giving it a different name or deleting it altogether?
Yes, actually, most violative cosmetic products, including those containing mercury in excess of 1 ppm, do not list mercury as an ingredient. So our advice to consumers is to always be vigilant and check for the cosmetic product notification using the FDA verification portal. And also most violative cosmetic products has labels that contains incomplete information. So if you, for example, you see a cosmetic product that only has a product name, but the ingredient lists are not there or directions for use, maybe steer clear of those kind of products.
Thank you. Ms. Elena, do you have any question?
Thank you. Thank you very much for the presentation. I want to ask two things. One is, have you been working directly with dermatologists? So because I would assume, and this is the experience from other countries also, that dermatologists, sometimes patients go to dermatologists and they have been damaged skin because of creams that had mercury. So the dermatologists would need to be aware, of course, and also of the portal, the advisories, etc. So is there something specific that you're doing with them? And then I have also another question. Thank you.
Okay, so let me answer your first question first. So our center under FDA has been in coordination with the National Poison Management Center of the Philippines. So they share data with us. But specifically for dermatologists, we have not yet coordinated with different dermatologists.
Okay, thank you. And then my second question is also following my presentation and the need to tackle these online sales. Could the FDA do something towards that direction so that some reform can take on third-party liability? Thank you.
Okay, so our mandate came from the Republic Act 9711, which I mentioned in my lecture. So according to this particular law, our jurisdiction only covers the manufacturers, traders, and the distributors, importers, wholesalers, and exporters. We cannot, or we don't have jurisdiction over retailers, which includes the online sellers. So unfortunately, our agency is not the right government agency to regulate those, but the health products, including cosmetic products they sell, are under our jurisdiction. So from that aspect, we can regulate them, but not as a online selling, as an online seller.
Thank you. If you have more questions for Cheryl, feel free to send us an email at comms@bantoxics.org and we will send it over to her. Another question from ABS-CBN. So DTI ba ang may jurisdiction sa third party?
For businesses, DTI po. It's the DTI's jurisdiction po. They have the jurisdiction over businesses.
Thank you. Any other questions from the participants?
Can I ask one more question?
Oh, yes.
I mean, there could be many questions.
Yes,
Thank you.
Selena, yes.
Have you identified any manufacturers in the Philippines? And if you have taken any measures on that, and then also, what are the penalties and that you impose if you find a shop selling a forbidden cream?
Okay, so I am not 100% sure if we have found a local manufacturer producing illegal cosmetic, mercury-containing cosmetic products. But if we do in case find them manufacturing violative cosmetic products, they are we file administrative cases against these manufacturers, and then there may be sanctions and penalties in accordance with Republic Act number 9711.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, if you have more questions, feel free to send us an email at comms@bantoxics.org and we will send it over to Cheryl for if there are no more questions, we now proceed to our next panelist. Last but most definitely not the least, we have Dr. Lawrence Bello. Dr. Lawrence is currently a professor under the Chemical Engineering Department of the esteemed De La Salle University, Manila. Dr. Bello specializes in waste utilization, water and wastewater, environmental engineering, remediation, phytoremediation. Dr. Lawrence will be sharing the adverse effect of mercury on human health. We welcome Dr. Lawrence.
Good day, everyone. Sorry, I'll just set up my slides. Sorry, I just came from class. So good evening, everyone, and good day. So I'm Lawrence Bello from the Chemical Engineering Department of De La Salle University, and my presentation is entitled Mercury in Cosmetics, a Shady Business. For the outline of my presentation, I'll be presenting the background, skin lightening products, historic uses of mercury, mercury in beauty products, basically the toxicity of mercury in products, sources and availability, the testing, and some policy implications. So I'm quite sure that everyone knows the famous line, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all?" by the Evil Queen. And what's the answer? Isn't it that the answer is Snow White? Right? So basically, just as the name implies, Snow White. So Snow, she's very white and she's very fair. Snow White is a story number 53 in the 19th century German tales of the Brothers Grimm. So in this case, does fairest mean most beautiful or most white? The archaic definition of fair used to mean beautiful. However, the present day fair means light skin. So what has happened? In semantics, I've actually searched, and then in semantics, when we say white and fair, it usually equates to bright, beautiful, and good. Whereas when we say black and dark, it's usually not beautiful and evil. So just like, take for example, this photo on the right here, the photo of Archangel Michael fighting the devil or Satan. So you can see here that he is fair, bright, and white, whereas the devil is basically dark or black. So today, black hair, eyes, and skin do bear beauty's name, a fact that we continue to celebrate. However, they still do not count as fair. This is a quote from Domonoske, one of the literature that I read. So if beauty is skin deep, why then does complexion matter? So let's ask ourselves that. Because skin color is actually a status cue. The darker the skin pigmentation of others, the lower the social status attributed to them. This is actually true for African, Indian, Pakistani, Malaysian, Hispanic, Chinese, Korean, and the list goes on. So I tried searching for the roots, especially in the Philippines. In the Philippines, you can see here that during the European colonialism, we have already practiced what you call binukot or seclusion in the Bukidnon provinces. So basically what happens here is that the daughters of the farmer were actually protected or secluded, even from the sunshine, so that they remain fair, they remain not dark, so they won't get darkened, and then so that they can have good suitors and have better husbands, I guess. And then during the Spanish colonialism, the religious images, for example, of Jesus, Santo Niño, and Mama Mary are all Caucasians, reinforcing the nobility of fair skin. So we can say that in the Philippines, being a Catholic country, wherein there's numerous statues and images of the saints, we're always reminded that they are the noble ones. They are fair, they're light-skinned. And then during the American occupation, you can see here in the picture here that a Filipino kid in tribal attire is, in a Coney Island zoo. He's actually tied to, I think, the bamboo or the wood there, being part of the zoo. And he was depicted as a savage. And he was dark. He was Filipino. And then during the modern day media, in beauty pageants, in TV, in magazines, in modeling agencies, mixed race beauty is often favored, normalizing fair skin as a standard for beauty. So you can see here, I just showed some, shades. Because of that, here comes the booming business of skin lightening products. So as you have heard from my previous slide, it's not bad to want to look lighter or fairer. After all, it has its perks. So how does skin whitening work? So basically, if you can focus your eyes here, this is a cutout of a skin wherein it has age spots and blemishes with excess melanin. And then what happens is that when you apply the skin whitening product here, it improves the appearance of the skin by reducing the concentration of melanin, the concentration and production of melanin, thereby making the skin paler. Hence, it's lighter. However, it has its bad effects because having less melanin means less protection from the harmful rays of the sun. And then when we look here on the right, we can see here that there's a study in China here in 2018 that the skin lightening products actually has around it's worth 8.3 billion US dollars in the world market already. And that's booming, as you can see in the graph here, that it continues to boom because everyone wants to have fairer or lighter skin. So what then is mercury? I know everyone has been talking about mercury, so I'll just pass through this slide quick. So it's a shiny, silvery metal in liquid form at room temperature. It has three forms: the elemental or metallic mercury, the inorganic mercury compounds, and the methyl mercury and the other organic compounds. It's naturally occurring, and then the two most typical sources are volcanic explosions or eruptions and coal combustion. They are toxic and hazardous, and they bioaccumulate and biomagnify. So meaning, if the fish eats planktons, they get to magnify inside the fish. So if you eat a big fish, it has most likely a lot of mercury content in them. So I tried to search for some historic uses of the mercury as well. So it shows here that more than 2,000 years ago, the Greeks used mercury in medicines to treat syphilis, used as diuretic, antiseptic, and laxative. And the Romans incorporated mercury in their cosmetics. So this is an underline because we're discussing cosmetics. And then in the 17th to 19th century, process of making felt for hats was discovered. So basically, mercury toxicity manifested as psychiatric illness and recognized as an occupational hazard of hat making, hence the term mad as a hatter. So when you look at the photo on the right, this is the Mad Hatter. In Lewis Carroll's famous novel, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass. So basically Alice in Wonderland, right? He is the Mad Hatter. And in the 19th century, California gold mining, so basically mercury was used to extract gold from the ores. And in the mid-20th century, mercury-containing compounds were popular as painkillers. So basically they used it to remedy infant teething pain because they knew, they don't have that much knowledge yet, and they don't have that much technology to test, unlike now for us. So some beauty products in the past contain high concentrations of toxic materials such as lead, of course, mercury, arsenic, and even radiation. Mercury has made headlines recently when it was discovered in modern cosmetics. So before the days of benzoyl peroxide, mercury was used to cure blemishes and also, of course, syphilis. That's why we have the delightful saying, a night with Venus, a lifetime with Mercury. So you want to be beautiful, you use Mercury. But then after that, you have to suffer its consequences because mercury is easily absorbed through the skin and can cause birth defects, kidney and liver problems, fatigue, irritability, tremors, depressions, and metallic taste in the mouth. And of course, death. So you can see here some of the photos of toxicity of mercury. So I won't mention these anymore. I've mentioned them earlier. So you can see here some rashes, and then the effects of the beauty skincare products here, the whitening products. So look at what has happened to the face. And of course here, the very well-known Minamata disease, which is a neurological disease. So what is actually alarming is that these products are potentially containing mercury and are available online. So you can see here in the photo here, this is actually in Zamboanga, Philippines. I think one of the groups partnered with Zero Mercury Working Group have taken this photo, and then they have discovered a lot of these products that has a high mercury content. So mercury is actually a common ingredient found in skin whitening creams. They are common in lightening creams, eye makeup, cleansing products, and mascara. And then when you focus your eyes here, you can see that these are some examples of skin lighteners. You can see it's quite alarming because I'll show you later on some more graphs. But then here, even with an acceptable limit only of 1 part per million, the limits shown here are 29,600 parts per million. That's in Pakistan. And then in Taiwan, it's around 7,000. In Lebanon, it's around 7,000 as well. And then both white and yellow cream made in China still exceeds, it's around 6,000, and so on. So Minamata Convention on mercury has placed a limit of not more than 1 part per million. However, I'm quite happy, being part of Ban Toxics, that they were part of the study by Zero Mercury Working Group. I think they have mentioned this already earlier. They participated in this study, and then they purchased online from Lazada. And then you can see the range of mercury that they have tested. It's from 47.98 up to 131,600 roughly. And take note that 1 part per million is acceptable. So meaning these products contain roughly 13% by mass mercury. So meaning if you have 100 grams of a product, 13 grams of that is mercury. So that's quite alarming, right? So regardless of whether they are made in the Philippines or not, or they may be imported, the alarming thing is that they are readily available online. So that is quite a shady business. Very irresponsible and with such high disregard for human health. So if you focus your eye on the pie chart here, you can see here that these are some of the countries manufacturing high mercury, which is above 1 part per million, as per Minamata Convention, skin lightening creams from indications on the packaging. However, just like what the previous speaker has stated, a lot of those with high mercury content don't actually place mercury in the labels. So we have to be vigilant. So you can see here that Pakistan has the highest, around 62%. And then the products from Thailand is next, 19%. And then the third is in China, with the Philippines in here roughly around 1%, but still we are in the list. So it is really important for us to look at labels. How would you know if there is a mercury? So you can see Hg, mercury, mercurio, calomel, mercurious chloride, or sometimes it's not listed. Actually, oftentimes it's not listed. That's why we really have to be vigilant and check the list. So I'm gonna share with you my personal experience with mercury. So I took my doctorate degree from the University of Newcastle, Australia, and I was involved in Kaleid Fuel project. So this is demonstration power plant in Queensland, where I had to be up here. So you can see encircled in here. I have to be up here around, if I'm not mistaken, around 25 meters high at the stack there. So I used the same testing kit as the ones used in the zero mercury working group. I think cold vapor sorption, if I'm not mistaken. So I used the Zimmerman cold vapor sorption for mercury. And then you can see here that I'm wearing their double nitrile gloves, because even before I did my study, we were asked to, watch a video on the effects of mercury. And then what happened was, every month I have to get tested. My urine, they have to um, have it, tested and collected for 24 hours and test for mercury content. I have to have, my eyes checked, and then my cognitive skills, my handwriting tested, because there was a professor, if I'm not mistaken, wherein she experimented on with dimethyl or methyl mercury, the organic form. And then what has happened was, she did not know that I think she's from the University of Texas, and then she did not know that there was a hole punctured in her gloves. And what happened was, she deteriorated, and then within 6 months she died. Imagine, she's very smart, she's the expert on mercury, and yet she died. So I had to work with double nitrile gloves, and then we have to have extra precaution. When you can see here, I was wearing it's not just normal gas mask. It's specialized. It has acid absorption, so that it can absorb the vapors coming from my experiments as well. So this is when I was in the lab. This is when I was in the power plant. And so what are some of the policy implications? How do we move forward? So basically, the Minamata Convention on Mercury is set to protect human health and the environment from anthropogenic emissions and releases of mercury and mercury compounds. So basically, after 2020, banning the manufacture, import, and export of cosmetics with mercury content above 1 ppm. Also, another implication is the European Union and many other countries have already regulations banning mercury-containing cosmetics. These include Canada, the Philippines, the United States, a number of African nations, including Ghana, Nigeria, and Uganda. So what's next for us? Basically, I think it's awareness and education campaigns on the effects of mercury, stronger partnerships with institutions to police manufacture of mercury-containing products, and basic and applied research. So I'm quite happy to say that, being with Band Toxics, they had their own mercury projects and drives, such as the Toxics Free Schools program, and then the Compassionate Gold, wherein there is no mercury in their extraction of gold, and fair labor, no child labor in there. And then here I showed here some of my studies, but then I was studying copper and cadmium and zinc. So my next step is actually on phytoremediation of mercury from Mercury-Laden environment, because I'm an environmental engineer. I'm not much on the human side of it, on the beauty products. I hope soon enough I can work with beauty products, but I hope Sir Jerry Sanyas is there. I've been with him in a lot of hearings in Congress. Yeah, so these are my references. And lastly, remember that whatever shade you are beautiful. And always check the labels because one night with Venus is a lifetime with Mercury. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Doc Lawrence. Mercury is indeed harmful to both human health and environment. We hope that policymakers will take a stronger stance to protect Filipinos from the adverse effects of the chemical in question. We will now open the floor for everyone who wishes to anyone who wishes to ask questions for Dr. Lawrence. You may send your questions directly to the host or to the panelists. Dr. Lawrence, you have two related questions from ABS-CBN and another one from a Facebook viewer. Do we have treatments for mercury-related illness? Are they available in the Philippines? And what are ways to detoxify oneself from mercury?
All right. I'm not a medical doctor, but then if I'm not mistaken, from the body, you can use chelators or chelating agents wherein it absorbs mercury from the body and then, it exits with whatever the chelator is used is. And then I think that's the answer to the question. But it would be best to ask, the medical doctors and the specialists.
The
I don't want
chelators
to lose
you
my
mentioned,
license.
Doc Lawrence, is that available in the Philippines?
Yeah, I think the chelators are available in with the in hospitals. Just like how, for example, when we get poisoning, how we're asked to use activated charcoal to absorb the poison and then release that, or it exits our body. So the chelators are also available, but then in the hospitals, or the poison, the disease control, something like that.
Thank you. Another question from ABS-CBN. What are alternative and safe skin whitening products? What do they contain of and their active ingredients?
I'm actually unsure because I'm quite lucky. I'm part Chinese. I'm quite white, so I'm not really sure of what alternative whitening products there are. But I think there are those with bleach probably. But please don't quote me. I'm not an expert on that. I'm more on the waste management.
Yes.
I think there are panelists who can answer the questions better than me.
From Sir Jerry of DNR, yes, chelators are available at the UP National Poisons Management Center in Manila.
Thank you, Sir Jerry. I have worked with Sir Jerry, multitude times already. And he's one of the best there is when it comes to toxics management.
Thank you din daw po from ABS-CBN.
Thank you po.
Any more questions from the participants? Ms. Elena, yes.
Thank you for the presentation, and it's quite nice to put all the history behind, because I think like that people remember more and connect it to different things that we've all known also when we were kids. So my question is, at the university, I imagine you are teaching also. So
Yeah.
have you been talking about mercury to your students at whatever level that is? And do you see interest? Are they aware? What are you presenting different elements of where mercury can be found so that they can actually be aware, or they can take this information back home? Because this would be interesting to know at the ground level, how the information and the awareness is passing, because this could be really important to have this through the education routes. Thank you again.
Thank you, Miss Elena. So, yes, as you have, as they have mentioned, I'm a graduate of environmental engineering for my master's and chemical engineering for my bachelor's and for my PhD. So, as thesis projects of my students, as one of my, I think, advocacies, I work with them to try to reduce uh, basically heavy metals, not just mercury. So I've tried with working with copper already, and then zinc, and then cadmium. I would really want to try mercury last time, but then there are a lot of issues with handling mercury, and then the university does not really want us to handle mercury. But then, yes, a lot of our students in De La Salle University, they work with professors that are working with heavy metals. Not particularly mercury, but yes, we work with our students.
Thank you, Doc Lawrence. There are no other questions. Okay. Okay, if you have more questions in mind, feel free to send us an email at comms@bantoxics.org and we will send it over to Doc Lawrence. Again, thank you, Doc Lawrence. Should you have any concerns or additional questions regarding the webinar, please feel free to send us also an email at comms@bantoxics.org. The certificate of attendance will be sent via email after the webinar. Please make sure that you have answered the attendance form. Before we formally end this webinar, may we call on one of our esteemed guests tonight, Mr. Jerry Geronimo Sanyas, for a short message. Mr. Sanyas is the current chief of the Hazardous Waste Management Section of the Environmental Management Bureau of the ENR. Sir Jerry?
Yes, good evening, almost good evening. It's nice to see people, and it's my privilege to be invited by the Executive Director of Bantoxics, Mr. Ray San Juan, and I'm very surprised that I will be giving the closing remarks. So, and I'm very happy also to see Doc Lawrence. Well, we have worked a lot, and of course, Bantoxics, from the start of mercury issue here in the Philippines, we have worked, and now their former executive director is now part of the Minamata Convention Secretariat. Then I'm very proud to see Richard Gutierrez moderating, and as you will know very well, that last week was a tough week for us. That the Minamata COP 4.1 has just been concluded last Friday, and basically what have been discussed in the COP, they call it COP 4.1 because that is the online segment, and there will be a face-to-face, and it's the argument or the long discussion whether a face-to-face will be happening by March 21 to 25 next year in Bali. But of course, the long discussion is about the program of work and the budget. But hearing the discussion, the presentation of Jam Lorenzo, my colleague, so we have just concluded our work, and this is just an other parties to the convention, other conventions like how Philippines is working with a civil society, and this is a public-private partnership. And this JAIF, or the Japan ASEAN Integration Fund project on mercury-containing medical measuring devices, that although it is a short notice for Bantoxic, but we know that they have expertise, we have chosen them, and congratulations, Bantoxic, for really supporting EMB and working with us, working with me, because we are now in the publication stage of your of the product, the two reports, the situation report and the technical guidelines on the environmentally sound management of mercury-containing medical measuring devices. Now, congratulations, Jam, for discussing some 101 as confirmed by Doc Lawrence, my idol from De La Salle University. And this is webinar is really a good avenue of information awareness, because one of the agenda that were discussed last week, if there will be budget, is on awareness and effective evaluation. How far parties have gone into really phasing out, especially for these mercury added products, and there must be an effective evaluation that must be done. So, but fortunately, I still survived, because the COP will start at 1 p.m. Geneva time, so that is 7 p.m. 7 p.m. Philippine time, or in the southeast, and then it will end up 9 p.m. Geneva time, or last Thursday it ended 12 midnight Geneva time. So therefore, that is 6 a.m. the following day, Friday. So you really need to have that commitment to, but of course the Philippines is not laid back or way behind, but with the support of Bantoxic in all our activities, especially for this mercury, and also helping us in the mercury initial assessment project before, when we are updating our ratification dossier, or the assessment, how far have we gone implementing the spirit of the Minamata Convention. And you are very, as you know, know also that since 2019, prior to our being a party to the Minamata Convention last year, it was only last year, and we were congratulated last week that we are part now of the Minamata family. And Philippines is recognized to be one of the shall I say? I'm sorry, Elena, that one of the favorites of Jeff, because one of the issue in the recent COP is that how competitive a party should be in relation to securing financial or funding assistance and technical assistance through the funding assistance of a GEF, or the Global Environment Facility. But this is a way that we raise awareness between and among public, the regulators. Like I admire the presentation of Ms. Sherilyn Tan from FDA. Although we have a cohesive and harmonized activity, and the key here is there's no outshining between and among government agencies, academia, and industry here, Elena. So we are complementing with this other, and in relation to prior to our becoming party to the Minamata Convention, we are ahead of time, as an output of the mercury initial assessment. We have already revised our chemical control order, and in 2019, we have issued the revised chemical control order with special focus or special attention on putting the timelines, and we have adopted at the moment that for mercury added products as listed in Annex A, and Toto and verbatimly we have adopted, but we just changed the timeline, which is by next year. So we are keeping our fingers crossed that we will hit the target, and with this kind of seminar or webinar, we know how other agencies like FDA and other DOH units are really working on and closely working on together with EMB as the national focal point and competent authority to this convention. But I'm holding on to the Philippine positions that I read it in case that I will be asked, since I'm representing one part of the delegation, and this is more on technical, and this is technical webinar should not be stopping from here. This must be continued, and we can highlight this as a very good activity in the activity of the Philippines, especially the established working institutional mechanism established, especially how government is working with a non-governmental organization like Ban Toxics, because abroad they are not seeing eye to eye, and some civil society are not working with academia. And I would like to congratulate that Ban Toxic is closely working with De La Salle University, focusing on how on mercury management, and their outputs will be a policy support in relation to if we will be enhancing or strengthening our policy in relation to mercury management of mercury and its compounds. So with that, congratulations everyone. Thank you. Congratulations, Bantoxis, for this another successful webinar. Although there's restriction and there are some and then I'd just like to be a shout out, and I'm very surprised that Doc Lawrence, the one asking question from the correspondence, is my first cousin. So she just dropped a message to me that the reason why she cannot direct her question to me is because she's the one covering. So, well, shout out. She's my cousin from ABS-CBN. She's Jasmine Romero. And I'm Jerry Jeronimo Romero Sanchez. Okay, good night. So, thank you. I usually call Mr. Ray His Holiness. That is our terms of endearment. That we work closely together. We're very welcome, and we're looking forward to more activities on mercury management, environmentalism management of mercury here in the Philippines with Ban Toxics. And at least I'm very happy that all sectors are here. I cannot see. So, well, looking forward to another webinar, technical webinar, and I hope that it will happen before the face-to-face of the Minamata COP 4.2 that will happen in Bali next year. So that if there will be recording of this webinar, then we can highlight as a side event, and this is how we do raising awareness in relation to phasing out the mercury added products in the Philippines. So FDA, DOH, DNR, civil society, academia are working closely working together towards achieving the goals and obligations of the Philippines being party to the Minamata Convention. With that, keep safe and stay healthy. So in addition to COVID-19 virus, don't forget that you still have responsibility of properly managing our mercury waste. And as they say, and I'm educated again with the Snow White of Dr. Lawrence, that as they say, mercury is the only element that God created, that only God can destroy it, because you can make a compound you put and then you can easily recover, and that's still mercury. So the final management is put it where it originally belongs. So that is one of the trust and goal of the Minamata Convention is to identify the final resting place, which are salt mines, abandoned salt mines, and where the Philippines has no, well, there are little, but of course, we really need to further educate the people on appreciation that removing the NIMBY, not in my backyard, but that is the safest way of managing mercury, is to immobilize it, make it in a cinnabar, and put it in a salt mine, and that will be final burial, as they term it. It is a final burial. So you can put it in a flask, put it in abandoned salt mines, and then that should not be near any aquifers, or that will not release and further contaminate our groundwater resources and our land. So with that, congratulations, Bantoxic, and I'm very happy to see Elena here from Zero Mercury Waste Group. I have been seeing them and working with them during the different INCs, from INC 1 to INC 7 in Dead Sea, Jordan, and then finally in Kumamoto for the adoption of this mercury. With that, congratulations. Good night, everyone.
Thank you so much, Sir Jerry. Bantoxics will forever appreciate your efforts to protect Filipinos from toxic waste. Before ending today's webinar, again, should you have any concerns or additional questions regarding the webinar and the different topics, please feel free to send us an email at comms@bantoxics.org. Before ending, may we request everyone to open their cameras for a brief photo op. Tech team.
Okay na po. Thank you.
Thank you, Tech team. Thank you, everyone. That concludes today's events. Thank you to everyone who participated in today's webinar. We are grateful for your presence and support for this event. Although our webinar has come to its conclusion, our fight against mercury does not end here. We hope everyone will enjoy the rest of the evening. Thank you very much and stay safe, everyone.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
At Elena, maraming salamat, Panginoon. Thank you.
Salamat.
Salamat po.
His Holiness, most welcome and my privilege. Doc Lawrence, at tawag ko kay
Yeah, kay Father.
His Holiness.
Hi, Elena.